Round two, fight. Welcome to Jack Ramsays. Danny Barang, Brandon Sprague. I love it when everything gets completely blown out. Everything checks out green, and I'm like, all right, let's launch the show. And then it doesn't work. It's super, super, super cool. Welcome to technology. And thank you to the 4,000 people who kept saying, your mic's not working. I know, guys. I can see it not working. I tried to fix it live, and that just didn't work. So this is what happens when I get back to my own studio. Obviously, the last time we did a show was in Vegas on Sunday afternoon, midday before Game 3? Game 2. Game 2 against Spurs.
Game 2, yeah.
Obviously, no more Scoot Henderson. He was shut down early on. Game 1, we had Ian Carmel on Sunday. Brandon was up here, so we had a nice little collection of vibes. Ian in town and having him on was awesome. Everybody was super, super psyched about him being on, and so are we. Ian's the homie, the official namer of the show, so he's an OG, and he will be around more. He will be popping on a little bit more frequently. It's never been a thing that we didn't want to do, but he was hosting a late night show. That was an everyday thing. So getting him on was always difficult because they shot 5 days a week. And even though that show's an hour long, for those who've ever worked in the media industry, those days are not an hour long. So it's like a 7-8 hour day of being all day long. Not easy to do. So shouts to Ian. But how you been, man?
I've been good. I kind of felt weird doing the show. Like, I was super happy to have Ian on, but I was the little screen in the corner and you guys had the studio. And I was midway through the pod, like, God, I should just kind of get off and let them just do this. Like,
I felt bad, like, not being able to, like, bring you in.
No, you don't have to feel bad. I didn't go to Vegas. Like, that was kind of my loss. Like, that should have been my punishment for not going to Vegas, was missing the dope show. The studio looked amazing that you got to do the show in. Shout out Blue Wire for that.
Yeah.
It was good. I've been good. I've just been, consuming the same garbage from Miami Heat fan and the national pundits all kind of saying some of the same stuff at this point with the Dame stuff. Summer League just wrapped. I think I need to ask the question everybody else is wondering. How was Vegas? What was the vibe like? What was it like just kind of being down there for a weird point for the franchise, but also such a big summer for all the prospects that came out of the draft?
So there's a couple different levels to this. This is the overall Vegas vibe, man. I was cooked by the end. I took so many meetings and sit downs and stuff like that with not only with the organization but with other people around the league, just trying to figure stuff out and see how things were looking, and not just for the Dame trade, but like, how are other teams feeling about their rosters? How did they feel they did in their draft? And what are their plans or free agency? And like all the things that kind of came around with that. And then like the idea of like what Dame and Harden trades are kind of holding things up, and how the rest of the free agency works out, not just for Portland, but around the league. There's still a lot of unsigned players. Mm-hmm. There's still like this tension beyond like Dame and Harden getting traded, that there's other players that are likely going to get traded. One of the other like big like storylines that came out of Vegas, I think, that nobody's really talking about, is the fact that Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota is done. Like, he's going to get moved. It is like the most foregone conclusion among everybody that I've talked to, that it's just like, yeah, no, he's like, they're going a different way. And it's been very interesting, just kind of like but where? Sure. Kind of a deal. It's like, not Portland. So
yeah, I mean, I've heard. I'm not lying when I tell you, though, some fans are into the idea. I don't know.
Some fans are into some kinky stuff. Okay.
Hey, we're Portland. Keep it weird. What makes it more odd, though, is that's the kind of the noise around the league, and then obviously he's had some comments this offseason. He just did a panel at NBA Con where they said, "What do you?" Malik Andrews was like, "Hey, what do you say to somebody that says you can't win with three bigs?" And he said, "Watch us." And I'm like,
I guess lean into it.
Team?
Lean into it.
I guess.
Right.
It makes you look dumber, I think, but
I mean,
he doesn't seem to care.
He's already pinged that bar all the way over.
Yeah, you're right.
I shout out to Ricky and the guys asking about the food in Las Vegas. Food in Las Vegas. Vegas is a top 3 food city, and it's slept on. And I'm not even talking in the country. I'm talking in the world. I've traveled all over the world, and Vegas just slaps on every level. You can get whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. Like, you can just stumble into a place, and you're like, I wonder. And it's going to be incredible. So, there's a spot right across the street from Resorts World where I stayed, which is right in between, like, right next to the Wynn where the team stayed at. I swear I spent half my time at Resorts World, half my time at the Wynn.
Yeah.
Just back and forth with a bunch of teams. But shout out Peppermill, restaurant in between. Oh my God. Just an obscene amount of food, and to the point of gluttony, but my God, did it taste good. I got this red pepper chicken pasta that was just, they bring you a bowl, like a trough of soup. It was this black bean soup, which is hard to screw up, but when you make it good, it really, really, really hits.
Yeah.
I basically licked the bowl, and then they brought out this, again, like gallon bucket of pasta, red pepper pasta and chicken. Like, I don't even know what to comp it to, but my God, it was incredible.
Really?
I had this like high-end Chinese place that had brisket fried rice, where they took like 24 hours smoked brisket, trimmed the fat, rendered the fat, then cooked the fried rice in the rendered fat. Oh,
holy moly!
Yeah. So
I was gonna ask top 3. Are you sure in the whole world? And then you said brisket fried rice.
And you're like,
fat. I'm like,
oh, okay.
Might be time to have the conversation.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can get whatever you want down there. And then the basketball. Like, it's kind of funny, the basketball was like 3rd on the list.
Yeah.
A big part of that had to do with Scoot getting shut down after 22 minutes. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Shaden playing more games than 1 or 2, I was like, oh, interesting. I think that had to do with 1, Scoot going down, and 2, Shaden being underwhelming in game 2.
Game 2 was a bad one for Shea. He needed that through the game.
He couldn't end on that. Like, it was like,
yeah.
You could have shut him down after 1, and then game 2, like, you saw the weaknesses that are still like things that he needs to work on. And I'm talking about the shooting, just like his inability to get to certain spots yet, or his handle not being quite tight enough. And I think like people are like, as much as it was like Scoot and Shaden, it's like it's Scoot and Ant, then Shaden. Like that's kind of how this is still going, because he's still developing. Now, he's still going to play 30 minutes a night, but it's going to be interesting. But overall, man, Vegas, I went to bed at like 2, 3 in the morning every morning for 3 nights. I barely drank. I didn't gamble a penny.
You didn't gamble at all? You didn't lay one futures bet?
Nah, man. I had I had a story so crazy, I can't even tell it on here. I think I mentioned I ran into Jaromir Jagr on the last show.
Yeah, you sent me a text about this story.
I literally cannot talk about it. It was a night that had it kept going, it would have been like a real life version of The Hangover.
Yeah.
Like, I was wondering if I was going to wake up in either a ditch in the desert or at Mike Tyson's house.
Or a mattress on top of the hotel the whole time.
Yes.
Nobody look there for you.
100%. So I had to cut that night short. And like a night I will never forget. 100%. But other than that, it was pretty low key. We were out late just because you're out late. Like, that's how Vegas goes. But to the basketball side of things, I thought you saw what you needed to see out of Scoot. The feel around Scoot, I mentioned this on the podcast on Sunday, was a lot of execs, a lot of scouts, a lot of folks I talked to. They were like, hey, Dame, sorry, I know it's a bummer. He's like, but Scoot, though. I got a lot of that. Got a lot of during the Hornets game, I had people kind of like bumping me like, rough for the Hornets, kind of a situation, which I think people need to slow their roll. I still think Miller's going to be really good, but Summer League is tailor-made for Scoot Henderson. Like, it's not only his play style, but his mentality and how charismatic he is. Like,
yeah,
it's tailor-made for pick and roll guards. And I think Scoot's going to be great, but also I think you saw Miller kind of as the week went on where you went, oh, there it is. I just think it took him a little while to kind of figure some stuff out.
He put it together against Portland for sure. That was easily his best game of the summer league. I was happy for him. Like I jokingly said after the first game, we won the draft. Because Danny, I don't have time to live in this world of wondering for 5 years. Like we've had enough draft luck go against us that I'm just gonna conclude that we've won the draft. Okay,
just gonna go with it. Okay,
I'm just gonna run with it.
I like it.
What you said was interesting. So you were in Vegas. And I would say the same thing you had from people around the league coming up to you and go, yeah, sucks about Dame. But Scoot, though. Mm-hmm. That's the vibe of the city.
Yeah.
Like, I still think everybody here in the surrounding area is wondering how this is going to go. What are they going to get? Is he going to end up with the team he wants? Is a sleeper team going to come in and be like, no, we don't care. We'll risk it all and hope that he can be happy enough to stay here. I don't know. Nobody knows right now. But I can tell you, I think people are done kind of playing the hypothetical Dame trade stuff. And I just feel like because of the game that he had, paired with Shaden having a couple good games, I think people are excited to see what this is going to be this year. I mean, I know you said it's going to be Scoot, Ant, then Shea. But we know Shaden's going to get a ton of minutes. We can talk about some of the questions we got involving Ant. But I think most of the people here, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but the vibe I'm getting from people, friends, non-friends, is like, yeah, it sucks with Dame. But Scoot, though, it does feel like that's the vibe of the city.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's something in there. And it's certainly in a time like right now where this is the lull, finally, because we're now on Dame Watch day 16.
Yeah.
So we're 2 weeks out. I think you've already seen, like, the full cycle of what a trade process looks like, which is the anger, the frustration, the pitting of sides, leaks here, leaks there, leverage here, leverage there, and now the work gets done. And I don't think that this is again based on just discussions with folks on all sides. I don't think this is getting done anytime soon.
Oh, it certainly doesn't feel that at all. And I think, I know you heard the Griffin audio. They did it on Sirius XM, and Griff he knows Joe decently enough, I think, to say, I don't think it's coincidence he said that stuff. And then you had a Raptors hypothetical trade. You had this, hey, Portland's not even listening to him right now. Like Joe's positioning the team publicly because for weeks it was Dame positioning himself against every other team except Miami. The weird thing for me is like where all this sits, you highlighted that you think that we're done with the cycle, right? And I guess I was more confused through the process of these people acting as if they've never seen a superstar player get traded. Like, do we none of us remember LeBron leaving Cleveland? Did none of us remember KD leaving Oklahoma City or, Chris Paul getting traded from the Clippers? Like,
Anthony Davis to the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. I could have come up with better names than those, but like my point is like we've lived in the world where the player side gets leaked and I want this and you guys weren't doing this and doing that, and then the team side gets leaked is like we're willing to send you wherever, and like that's business. That's how this goes. It's I was kind of surprised how many fans were like, I can't believe Dame would do this. It's like this
how it works.
This is the business of this. And honestly, I think it's been a little messy. And I'm not surprised by that either. I think you got a player doing something he doesn't want to do, but it's kind of the best move for both sides. And he realizes that. But yeah, I think it's a little messy because of that too.
From my discussions, I 100% believe, unequivocally, that Dame does not want to go. Unequivocally. But he also doesn't believe that where the team is at right now is a team that's capable of winning.
They're not.
And I don't think he's wrong. And that's why did you see the clip I put up of Evan Turner on Gil's podcast? Yeah. Like I thought ET was so good. So good. I made sure to grab I didn't want to just grab the one clip that everybody had. Like there was a quote that came out of it of like, you tried to trade Harrow and Kyle Lowry for Dame. Like, nah, man. What he says before that is I think really important. Josiah Johnson's like, what do you think of this whole situation? And ET's like, look, man, I think it's really different from when you retire and you get a much better understanding of stuff. Like when you're in it, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm going where I'm going to go. And he goes, and ET just like, he goes, look, that's my guy. Like ET and Dame are tight.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, I get it. Dame is right. The Blazers are right. No one's really wrong here, which is why this is going to take a while. And why, if Dame does end up in Miami, it's because it's going to be like a 4 or 5 team deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just the reality. Or it's going to get looped into the Harden trade and stuff's just going to get moved around in a way where Portland gets what they want out of the situation. Like something that's amenable. There is not a world in my head where a 1-to-1 trade happens between Miami and Portland.
No, that train
it doesn't exist. It was never there.
Yeah. I do think, and I know I'm kind of answering maybe a question or two in the ones that we got. Shout out to listeners for the questions. They were great. I would say on that, though, like you include 3, 4, maybe 5 teams, right? It kind of feels like the NBA's in this weird, we're all kind of waiting for the Dame Harden stuff to settle before we all start making some moves here. It has a real feel to me of like right now, today as we sit, there doesn't appear to be that coveted asset, that player part. I think there's bit pieces that could make sense for where the Blazers are. Mm-hmm. But I think it goes back to what Joe himself said. Like Joe highlighted, he's like, we could want a win now player. We could want an up and coming young player. And then he dropped we could look at picks and draft capital. Like, I think overall, this is going to kind of end a little differently, but somewhat similar to what's on the table now. I just think you get more teams involved. There's more stuff. And so it's like Joe drains Miami, who I would assume in mid-August, if it gets to that point, is going to start feeling it a little bit from like Jimmy and stuff. Like, yo, get this done. Stop holding back on pick swaps here. Like, get this crap done. And so I'm almost wondering, Danny, if it's like the player pieces from Miami, because Jovic and Jaquez are interesting role guys, right? And then you add the pick stuff, then you get another team involved. There's more pick stuff because Hero's being rerouted. I'm almost wondering, where's the young asset if it's not there today? And how much of this can be draft capital versus, hey, these guys are good young players. There's no stars here, but man, like you need a good team. You need depth. You
need, and that's that. Like in talking to folks, it sounds like Miami. It's not like they look at Hawkins like, oh, we're holding him back because of like he's a great player.
Right.
They like him because of his mentality. Like he's a Heat culture guy.
He's a dog, man, at UCLA. We're familiar with him.
He's he's an older player. Like he's a little bit more mature. Like that's the reason. Like, everyone's like, do you think Hawkins is holding up the deal? Fuck no. No. Let me just be entirely blunt. Fuck no. No. Jaime Hawkins is not holding up a goddamn deal for Damian Lillard. No. No.
Pat Riley just contemplating.
This is the one thing. Do we include Hawkins? No.
He's just he's Pablo Escobar looking into the water, just like wondering, do I give it all up for Jaime?
Yeah, and it's like, and people are like, do not believe these people in Miami or like this whole idea of like, that they're having discussions. From what I've been told, Portland and Miami have barely talked because there's no reason for Joe to pick up the phone.
No.
Like it's dumb. We have a truckload of questions to get into. Let's get into them. I thought this was an interesting question from at NBA Rumors News, Colangelo's last burner. Shout out to the Bleacher Report photo. He's got the giant collar Colangelo from Game of Zones. When teams trade superstars for multiple assets, there's almost always one flagship asset that stands apart from the rest of the return package. What is the least valuable flagship asset that you feel would be acceptable in a Damian Lillard trade? A no BS first round pick and a starting caliber player.
Yes.
That like those two together, or a blue chip young player.
Yeah.
Like Tyrese Maxey, but a wing. Like
sure, and if you could identify that, I'm waiting for the information to come out more and more daily. Yeah. But like you keep reading the rumor mill stuff and what you can hear from most national pundits and stuff. It's just doesn't feel like right now there's like the blue chip young guy, but I think you hope through the process of working multiple teams into this trade out that maybe somehow that does happen.
We'll kind of see how that goes. The name that came up that I found interesting, and this is not sourced from like a team. This was just guys talking. Is Jared Allen, and we got a couple questions about Jared Allen. Jared Allen is gettable, and from what I understand, the Blazers, if they're going to move on from Yusuf Nurkic, which I don't think there's anything that's going to cause them to go, now we got to hold on to Nurk. I think they're ready to move on. They want a rim running center. Mm-hmm. They want a guy who sets hard picks, rolls to the rim, blocks shots, rebounds, and like finishes with verticality.
So Badji.
But like the better version. Like Badji's a project guy, but like
I
Jared,
know.
Yeah, no. But Jared Allen, like he fits the timeline. Contractually, he makes sense. Like there's been some talks about Cleveland about moving Evan Mobley to the 5 a little bit more. Like, could they change some things around to make that work?
Yeah.
Is like, okay, that's better. Like, but if you got Jared Allen and I don't know, another rookie scale player in a first, like I'm not even talking the total package. I'm talking like a rookie scale player of like impact, not a superstar rookie scale guy, but like a starting caliber player, a lesser blue chip and a real first. Now you have the framework for a deal.
So if you get Jared Allen in this ordeal, if you can figure that out and that somehow gets incorporated, if you get Jared Allen, you've hit a home run.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jared Allen is a really good young player. Obviously, the fit with him and Mobley in the playoffs kind of came to a head a little bit with the Knicks and what they were able to do and what Tom Thibodeau kind of took away. I think Jared Allen with these dudes would make so much sense. And right now, I haven't heard a player better than Jared Allen mentioned in these conversations. Outside of, if the Blazers were structured different, then a Maxey and a Hero make sense, but they don't make sense for this team. And so that's why you kind of, you blow them off. If you get Jared Allen in this, you've done a huge part because I would assume you're also getting a massive draft haul, which is really going to be important, not for just the picks, because Miami's picks are going to be a part of this. I just don't know how there's another way around it. We don't have to argue about those picks. The likelihood is if your scouting department's right and developmentally Scoot and Shaden hit, Scoot and Shaden are going to be really good in like 4 years. Mm-hmm. So that 2028, that 2030, that doesn't do a lot for you, even if the Miami Heat go down. But man, if you're true about rebuilding with those dudes and they start hitting a point, those are going to be assets that you can flip for, good pieces that we're not even thinking about right now. So if you get Jared Allen, huge hit. Because right now, all you're hearing noise about is Hero, Jovic, a Lowry contract.
Or Hero getting flipped for something else. And I was talking to a couple guys who've been in the league for 40 years. And we kind of concocted this, like just based on knowledge of kind of where teams are looking. Keldon Johnson is the most gettable guy on the Spurs roster.
I've talked to a dude in San Antonio who said he's literally that. He is the most gettable player that they have.
They do need guard play. Mm-hmm. What if you send Hero to San Antonio and you get Keldon Johnson to go to the Cavs and you get Jared Allen to go to the Blazers in this kind of weird trade and you find another like just plug and play big to slot in for Cleveland where they kind of decrease at their center spot. Maybe that's Nurk. I don't think so, but like, let's just say it is. Let's just say it is just to simplify this.
Yes.
Okay. Now you take back Jared Allen and maybe a Coral. Maybe that's too much, but like you're start getting things start to clear up a little bit more. And I've seen a couple people in here say that Jared Allen's like 6'8" or 6'9". I've stood next to Jared Allen. Jared Allen's 6'11". Jared Allen's absolutely huge.
Isn't he listed 6'11"?
He's listed at 6'9" in some areas, but he measured at the combine barefoot at 6'10". So he's I don't know why he's listed at 6'9". Jared's huge. And the fro makes him even bigger. But
could you imagine having Scoot and Jared Allen? We'd have to have the 70s throwback uniforms next year.
Mm-hmm. Those remix jerseys look pretty good.
70s night at Moda Center.
But I think like that's a more unique approach than like the straightforward stuff that we're talking about. The one from the Ringer, that I've also heard Michael Grange and others talk about in Toronto is Scotty Barnes. And I think Scotty Barnes so far is the best player / prospect that we've heard talked about in this. I don't know if Toronto would do this, but it's an interesting way. Like, Portland's talking about pairing OG and Pascal with Dame. What if Toronto just pairs Dame with OG and Pascal? Like, I get it.
I get it. My only problem with it, and I it's fine. I think I'd ask for another pick in that.
Well, I mean, it's more than like it was what the package that the Ringer had was Barnes, Precious, Thad,
player.
a first, a pick swap, and something else for salary. And I was like, Barnes, I like. Like, I'm not as high on him as others, but like, functionally, he makes more sense.
For them, it makes a ton of sense to take that risk. And that's kind of through this process, it's interesting, like hearing narratives and how people talk about this stuff. So I would understand it, I guess, on the court. Like, Toronto won their title off making a move like this, right? You're giving up a beloved player, you're giving up something that means something to you, even though we knew Kawhi was better than DeRozan. I just don't buy the Masai's doing it. He's given up on Scotty after what, 2 years? I don't know. I'm like, why would you do that? The
same guy that mailed out DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, I know.
Which is why, like, I don't think they would do it. But in the back of my head, I was like, hell, he did ship out DeMar.
Well, I'm not. I don't know anything about their ownership group outside of Drake. Like, Pascal needs a new deal, OG needs a new deal, and Dame's going to be $60 million in like 2 years. Like, how is that working for them? Because I don't even know if that's a title team. You're going to pay into the luxury tax like that? That's a repeater tax, isn't it? With those three players?
They're right there.
Yeah. So they're going to keep paying luxury tax to not win the championship? I mean,
that's a really good team.
That is a good team, but that's going to be an expensive team too.
It is. Well, I think their ownership group is the same group that owns the Leafs, if I'm not mistaken, which is
okay. I didn't know that.
Which is dumb Canadian money. Like,
oh, okay.
They have more money than God, type stuff. Like, it's one of the richer ownership groups, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But I mean, like, that's a Dame, Gary, OG, Pascal. I think Gary was in the deal coming back for the Barnes one. I think that was the other guy, which I think Portland would then try to reroute him, not because Gary's not good, just because, again, guards. But I think that's a more interesting package than I saw some Miami fans like, that's not even better than what we have to offer. I'm like, huh? How is that not better than what the poo-poo platter you have out there?
So I feel like I know the answer to most of this, but I still think we haven't done a pod in a week. We should.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about this part. So in the off chance that certain things don't go the way they might go, you don't really have as much on the market in terms of multiple. It's not a 5-team deal. It's not even a 4-team deal. It's maybe a 3-team deal at most. Okay. And Dame is putting pressure, and Portland's, we're not moving just to move. The idea that people keep asking me this question, the idea that, are you just better suited knowing you're not going to be good next year? Is there something wrong with taking a Tyrese Maxey and just having that on your team?
Yes, there's something wrong. And
Tyler Hero,
no.
This is the point I think that people get to when you don't have a trade happen right away. It's like, well, what if you keep him? And then what if you play him and then you flip him? Like, can you flip him for more if he plays well?
Yeah, no, there's 100% okay, so this is me putting on my Blazers hat if I'm running the team, not only as an owner or GM, but from the business side of things.
Right.
You are going to take it in the teeth, not knowing right now how to sell season tickets. You are going to take it in the teeth in the fan perception side of things. You are going to take it in the teeth in your roster construction if you don't trade Damian Lillard going into the season. It is better for you as an organization to get this trade right and take it in the teeth for 6 months than to fuck it up and have it hit you for 6 years. Full stop. if you are the Blazers, if you screw this trade up and you don't get a return that is necessary, you are setting your next group up for failure. It's just the way it is. And I think that, like, when Evan Turner on that podcast, when he said, like, look, as an organization, like, if you don't get this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're behind the eight ball. It's the same kind of things. And so if they settle, I'll be shocked. Because here's the thing, I've had this discussion back and forth with people who are like, well, Jody and Bert and the Vulcans and Joe, they screwed Damian Lillard over. They're evil and they're this, that, and the other. I mean, Dame came out the other day on IG and said Jody's not evil. That she's been solid with him behind the scenes, behind closed doors more than anyone. Which I think speaks volumes, because for Dame to say that in the middle of this contentious process, you got to take a step back, okay? But if they've treated him like shit through this whole process, why would they stop treating him like shit when it matters most? If we all think that Vulcan is this cold-blooded, calculated, that this is all this whole process of forcing Damian Lillard out of town, why would they jump ship when it's most important?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if that's your thought process, be consistent. Like, they're going to continue to be ruthless. But if you don't think that, then maybe there's an opening there for, like, a more amenable situation. And to me, again, from the Blazers side of things, the more amenable situation is Dame adding 2 more teams to the list. Like, there's 2 ways this goes. Either Miami miraculously works a deal that Portland gets what they want, or Dame adds two more teams. Like, there's, I don't know how many people
That's an sorry to interrupt you.
No,
that's a fascinating play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I'd be curious to watch that play out. If he just suddenly pops up and it's August 5th, right? It's July 16th right now. Like, August 5th feels so far away, but then, like, it's here, and August 5th, nothing's happened. And then there's a random Haynes report. Dame Lillard absolutely open to the idea of playing with fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is not very often that you get star player that names specific team, like, publicly. I know the Mitchell thing's been used, but that was like people knew he wanted to go, but it wasn't as public. Like, this is a different level.
I mean, he was going to New York, and New York did the same thing that Miami did.
How often does the player name the team publicly, and, like, the report is he's stuck on that stance and it's Miami and Miami only, and then, like, a month goes by and suddenly he just says, no, I'll go to these other teams? Like, how often does that really happen? That'd be an interesting thing to watch play out.
I think the way that happens is very much like the CJ McCollum deal. CJ didn't want to go to New Orleans, but it's a good spot for him to land basketball-wise. I mean, they could have shipped him somewhere else and gotten more in return. But I think
there's some good spots for Dame to land. It's just about where he wants to live, and does he view those teams the same way he views Bam and Jimmy?
Look, I think basketball-wise, Boston and Miami are about the same.
Are you trading Brown?
Yes. Even with Jalen leaving, I think it. Again, the Bill Simmons trade for me is like the Holy Trinity trade. You know, Dame to Boston, Jalen to Houston, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, and salary to Portland. Like, that trade for me is the one. Like, that's I don't think, like, outside of
the O'Connor trade's ridiculous to me.
Which one was that?
Robert Williams.
Oh, the 1-to-1 with Boston. Yeah, no. I'm out.
Yeah, you're not trading Jalen Brown.
Yeah,
like, why would we want that? Why would they want that?
Interestingly enough, the Boston and Jalen Brown haven't signed that extension yet.
He's out of town.
Look, you can.
It's fascinating, isn't it? You feel like there's something building.
Well, not just on a trade. There was a lot of talk about Jalen not wanting to sign it because it'll keep it in Boston guaranteed for another year. Man, you sign that Supermax, and it makes you stay you're untradeable for a year.
If you are already so if that report's true, you're already at a point where you're about to sign a $300 million contract, and you're worried about signing it because you have to be in that city that you've already been playing in for another year. What are we doing here?
Because it's a truckload of money.
It is.
That's why it's just a
like,
truckload of guaranteed money, man.
But look, when you make $200 million, is 300 going to make or break your entire lifestyle?
Yes.
I don't think it would.
Buddy, I'm telling you. Like, everybody's like, oh, players aren't going to care about $500,000 for the play-in, the in-season tournament. Oh, buddy, let me tell you right now, guys are going to be fiending for that $500,000.
That's Houston, Atlanta, Vegas money, dude. Of course they're going to care about that.
Uh-huh.
You're paying for a lot of lap dances.
Look, man, that tournament's in Vegas in the semifinals. Woo! Are
How many arrests are we going to have, NBA related?
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, yeah, it's 100% guys are going to want that because, look, there's only so many guys that get that much money. And when you get a nice little boonk, $500K dumped in your lap, that's real.
The other thing for me, and that I could be off on this, it does feel like they missed this by a year.
The superstar trades? Yes, they did.
Just the Dame, Portland, moving on window feels like it was missed by a year.
When Neil was fired, that was when I think both sides would agree that if it was going to come to this, it should have happened then.
100%.
I think if you just.
But I'm glad it didn't, because then we wouldn't have the 72-point night.
71.
71, yeah.
72 would have been great. I got some version of this, so forgive me for everybody that's out there. Do you think if it gets to the season, would Dame play? Yes. Yes, I do think Dame would play.
I'm on the record. I have a prediction that that's how it's going to be. Jokingly saying the starting lineup's going to be Dame, Ant, Scoot, and Shaden, and then Nurkic. Jokingly. I don't, as a basketball fan, I'd love to watch that offense. My philosophy or how I view the game and the way kind of like seeing how these teams make decisions with their futures and their franchise players, I'm not a fan of it. I'm like, I will watch it. I will talk about it. I'll be excited to watch the highlights.
It's limbo. It's basketball limbo, and you're just
I
sitting
don't
there
like that. Yeah,
but
I don't like it.
That's back to my original point of like, you have to get this trade right.
Right.
So you deal with the awkwardness, you deal with the uncomfortableness part of this. But as far as Dame will be solid. He will be 10 toes, like he likes to say. Kevin Durant did the same thing. And Dame is a more solid dude than KD. And I'm not saying that as a slight to KD. KD's a hooper's hooper. Like he lives for this stuff. Dame lives for this stuff.
Yes.
I don't think he's a guy who's like, I'm going to sit out. Now, there's a world that exists where perhaps Portland asks him to sit out so he doesn't get hurt. Or something along those lines. But
God, you just painted a worst case scenario that I don't want to discuss.
Again, we won't know entirely until we get there, but I think that's something that's like, but this whole idea of like Dame sitting out.
No.
I'm not trying to disparage Goodwin and for what he's kind of putting out there because he's doing what's best for his client. But the Damian Lillard I know, that's not him. It's
Danny,
not.
you know the GIF with Denzel slamming the door on the guy at the door talking?
Mm-hmm.
That's everybody with a brain, and that's Aaron Goodwin behind the door. Like I just did an interview a couple days ago with Milwaukee, and they were doing a Dame update check.
Yeah.
And the host in Milwaukee goes, "You're not gonna sit down. That's the stupidest report I've ever seen in my life." And I'm like, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, USA is onto it. Like, if they're onto it, and that wasn't a knock at that guy, but like, I just feel like if everybody else in Milwaukee's onto it, everybody knows that dude will play.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Dame's one of the most solid, these top 5 solid dudes in the league.
Everybody knows he loves to play ball. Like, he's not one of those.
He's not Kyrie, he's not Ben, he's not James, he's not any one of those guys.
Yeah, he's not going to drink the gravy juice to sit out.
Put on the fat suit. It's just not a thing.
Somebody put Bruce Wayne looking at the bat suit and said, "This James Harden."
Yes, it was the bat. Yeah, it was the fat suit. Yeah, no, it was great. Again, a bunch of you asked this. We had like 89 questions before the show. Some version of will Nurk be moved in a Dame trade or will Nurk be moved? I don't know. Again, I think the likelihood is high. Would be the route that I would go down. What did Nurk say at exit interviews? We all getting traded if Dame's gone. I don't think there's a ton of reasons for Nurk to be around, and like mentally, I don't think Nurk's going to be totally checked in if Dame's gone. And realistically, he probably gets moved in that deal if it's done.
Checked in when Dame was here either.
Again, yeah. And everyone's like, well, what about Jeremy? Well, I mean, Jeremy just signed a new contract, so he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere for 6 months. Now, would Jeremy possibly be dealt at the deadline or next summer? Very much on the table. Very much on the table.
Well, yeah.
But I think Portland is very much clearing the deck, which would include Nurk.
Yeah. Well, you need to address your 5. I mean, that's obvious position of need.
I think stylistically they want to get away from what Nurk is as far as like being in the paint, post-ups, those kind of touches. I think they want a more spread pick and roll and kind of figure some stuff out.
It is I know he doesn't necessarily fit the timeline, but just as like maybe a stopgap kind of good veteran player to have. Like I think what I've taken away from some of the Joe stuff and kind of trying to weave in and out is I think when he says win now players, I think what he means is like veteran leaders that are good on court guys that are going to have a good attitude and be a good example for the young guns. Is like a Clint Capella available?
I think that makes sense.
I'd be interested in that.
As a stopgap guy, for sure.
Like a Theo Ratliff or something, just like...
This generation's Theo?
Yeah.
A guy who knows his role, does what he does, doesn't need anything more than that. And to be honest, Clint Capella probably like, I can get the hell away from Trae Young. I think it's a win-win for all involved.
He's going to get lobs. The team's going to be athletic.
John Collins like, send me anywhere. Utah, fine. I don't care.
Somebody asked me, I did another radio interview, and they said, hey, if you guys don't take Hero, well, what team do you think should step up and maybe give Portland something for him? And I went, well, he'd meet the quota in Utah. And then that took him a second, and then it registered what I was talking. Oh,
it's a white.
Another white.
At John Boyozos, which 2 of the guards start? If Ant's on this team, Scoot and Ant.
Scoot and Ant, yeah.
Scoot and Ant.
Yep.
It was like, well, they should start Shaden and working it. Like, he'll be fine working on his development in 30 minutes a night coming off the bench. You're putting him in a bad spot.
But they need bench scoring, too. They don't have anybody to score off the bench right now.
But not just that. Like, you're putting Shaden in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe play
there's a level of, like, good development and bad development. Making him play up, or even in the start, like, I think it's better for his development to come off the bench and still play 30 a night. Like, doesn't mean he can't close. But the more opportunities he gets against second unit guys, you start working on stuff, you start building on stuff. It doesn't matter about wins or losses, but like scaling, it matters. Yeah. Like we saw Ant do this. Like he feasted on second units in year 3. And then, they start shutting guys down. Dame gets hurt, surgery. He takes control, and it's like, oh, there it is. Like that's the development curve. I think I like that.
Yeah, I think it doesn't appear to me that I don't think they've been in a hurry to trade Ant personally. I think they value Ant for what he is and what they think he can be. And I think they're playing the long game here. They're not sitting here today going, oh my gosh, we're losing our major asset. We might lose another asset. Let's add another one to that. I think they're going to slow play this until, I don't know, they figure something out with what they're doing in the future, or they go, hey, this dude's great. And a lot of teams are calling about him. So I know we got a lot of questions on him and the way the team's kind of handling that. There's 2 sides to this, and everybody's going to think their side is right here, but you do have a side of, he doesn't really make sense. It's clear what your backcourt's going to be. You're going to suck, so play the young guys. And then you got the opposite side. Is like, why are we just giving up on him? And why do we have to deal him? And, it's an ongoing discussion now that it's kind of even though it's not happened yet.
Yeah, no, that's the question here from Keegan Montgomery at Keegan Montgomery 878. I don't understand why Ant hasn't been moved. He doesn't make sense for this team with or without Dame. Can you shed some light on this?
That's constant noise I've heard, too.
I don't understand how that idea is even remotely pervasive. If Damian Lillard isn't on this team, your three-man rotation of Scoot, Ant, and Shaden is good. Like, the problem isn't that the Blazers only had 3 guards. It's that they had 4 or 5. That was the problem. Being able to rotate those 3 guys is good. Scoot and Ant and Shaden. Like, that's interchangeable. That makes sense. Scoot's not on the floor, Ant's running the 1, Shaden's at the 2. Like that, You bump Shaden to the 3 for like 10 minutes a night. It's like, it makes sense. Like, I don't understand why. Like, it's not like he doesn't fit the timeline. He's 24 years old.
So my position's changed on this, actually, I would say, in the last few weeks. I wasn't one of these, like, get rid of him for a bag of peanuts guys. But I've just been curious what his market is and seeing if the team was going to kind of look out and venture and see if they could get something that's a decent return. I've switched my position. I think you're better off with him. One, he's a really good basketball player, as the sun's just getting through my blinds somehow. And two, I could see a world where if he's not part of the future, the quote unquote future, it's a Scoot and Shaden addition. Like, if he's still shooting close to 40% and scoring 25 points a game, there's going to be a team that's calling and going, oh, hey, we're super interested, and this is what we're willing to do. And you go, wow, that makes a lot of sense for us right now. Like, it's the best of both worlds.
The thing about this is, everyone's like, well, you just got to give Shaden minutes. Like, he's not going to not get minutes. There's 90 plus minutes between those two spots. 30 apiece. Like, it's very simple. People are like, but Shaden, I'm like, it doesn't bother anything. And here's the thing beyond this. When you just go entirely young, you're the Houston Rockets and there's no development.
Mm-hmm.
You're just chucking. There's no structure. There's no nothing. You want guys that have understanding, veteran savvy, know how to run a team, know how to like be big in moments, know how to set things up, how to attack a defense. You go down those lists and you're like, the other two guys in Scoot and Shaden don't have any of those yet. None of it. Now, they're going to get them, but you need a guy to do that. And not to win games, but to set how to be an effective NBA team. The Rockets were a shit show and have been for 2+ years now. Like, I genuinely, like, the stuff that I hear from people, from, execs, agents, like, you don't want to see players end up at Houston.
Yeah.
Because of how dysfunctional the development process and how much sense they don't make in all of this. And so you don't want to become that. You still want to have semblance of structure going forward.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head, and I'll give you a great example of what the situation could be in terms of how we should view this. Not in the sense of they're on the same level as this team now, but the way they've built this team. It's SGA and OKC. It's give us young, really good player that everybody can see is going to hit. He hits. Oh, and now we're adding Chet Holmgren last year, and he's coming this year, and we're adding Williams, and then we got Giddey, and like you're still adding young nucleus, while SGA is still first team.
But he's still 3 or 4 years older than everybody else.
Yes, right, and he still fits. He can, by the way, still fits a young timeline, and good enough of a player that's like winning you games. I think they're going to be the 5th seed in the West. It's one of my hot takes. I think they're going to take a step with Chet. And so, like, it's not that Ant's going to be SGA. It's just more like that's kind of what I think you're highlighting here is the young team needing to understand the maturity, the ins and outs, and there's how, like, the culture goes in a new environment. Like, you need leadership. And Ant's 24. That's super young. Danny's been in this league for, like, 5 years. This dude's old in the NBA now. You know what I mean? He knows what the life is like.
And that matters. That's why you have Tease. That's why you have Ant. That's why you have Jeremy. And Jeremy's, from what I understand, is totally okay with coming back. Now, I
would too if I made that much
but
money.
Not even just that, but like he likes it in Portland. Like he feels good. Like he's empowered by Chauncey. He's got a good relationship with the front office. Like everything's good. Mm-hmm. But this whole, like, there's this idea of, like, you have to go entirely young. Like, everyone has to be under 25. You don't want that. You just don't. Teams that do that don't do well. They don't develop. You got to have, even in a developing team, you've got to have these smatterings of age groups to kind of figure this stuff out. And I've seen some people say, well, what if they add one more player and Dame's gone, like, with Tease and Jeremy and Ant, Scoot and Shaden, like, they can get it done. I'm like, no, they can't. You know how I know? Because I saw Jeremy Grant do this with the Detroit Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not one player away. They're going. If Damian Lillard is gone and
They're
they
gonna
don't
be a bad team.
I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. They might be one of the worst teams in the league.
Oh, easily.
Like,
yeah, I'd be.
They might struggle to win 26 games.
If you told me they were in the top 3 odds for the number 1 pick post Dame, I'd go, yeah, it's kind of what I think.
Unless they get a guy who's like 23, 24, who's like a dude, and you're like, okay, they're not gonna suck. Like, but beyond that, they're going to be very bad, purposefully. Like, from the jump. Think about what the Blazers have done with the tank post All-Star break, but 50 more games of that.
Hey, that's the one thing you and I have been 100% right on so far, and we've done this for 2 years now, 2 seasons. Man, people act like they're about that tank life, and the tank life's here, and
it's 2 months of it, and people are like tearing their skin off their face, buddy. Yeah. You're gonna get 7 months of this.
I want to be honest with you guys, man. Like, there's going to be a lot of games where Scoot goes for 27 or Shaden goes for 24 and Ant drops 30. And, like, you're like, man, look at how much he scored. And
you lose by
16.
Not
much else after that. And Jeremy's giving you 15 and you've lost by 23 points because there's no defense. Like, this team's just not going to be very good. It's like, let's not get into the, how did we get here? Let's blow this up. Like, you just have to kind of take your lumps with young guys. And that's the direction the franchise is headed right now.
This is an interesting question. This is from Chris Brezick. If Grant isn't traded by the deadline, does he get shut down for tank mode, then moved in the offseason? I don't think you'll necessarily see that, but that's so far out. Yeah.
I don't think it'd be a ton of games. I could see a scenario where it's like the last 10 if they're in a situation, but again, I think he can play and they still will lose games.
Do you think the Blazers make a move outside of Dame trade, or is the roster set until that happens? That's from S Curry 77. I think everybody keeps asking, like, what about the MLE? What about doing this? Again, this kind of ties back to that point of, like, things are going to suck until the Dame trade. If the roster isn't making sense or perfectly balanced on opening night because they haven't been able to get a deal done, so what?
There was one player I was a little like, we could have got that, I feel like.
Who?
And it would have not ruined anything. Obi Toppin was had for 2 seconds. We got like 8 second-round picks, man. Like, that was the one that for me I was like, kind of makes sense. The age, the kind of athleticism.
You wanted the Neil Olshey second redraft.
I mean, yeah, there was a little bit of that. Yeah. Like, when you're in this situation, I think you do it. Like, when you're in a Dame win now situation, well, this is ridiculous. But if we're talking in a post-Dame world, they have like 7 or 8 second-round picks. I'd given up 3 to see what Obi Toppin can be with this nucleus.
I think the only reason they haven't done anything is so that they have the ability to do a 3-for-1.
And that's, yeah, I would assume there's some more roster building to this than I assume. I saw that move, and like that was my one. Feels like we could have did that move.
Because
that could have been ours.
I don't know the date. During Summer League and up to the run-up, you can carry 20 guys on your roster, I believe is the number, and then you have to cut down. I can't remember the date, but like you get to a certain point, I think after training camp, I think might be preseason game 2 that week, I think you have to cut down. I haven't looked at the CBA to see where the adjustment is, but like that kind of situation, I think, is why they are where they are. And with a guy like Toppin, he's guaranteed contract. So,
right.
And this kind
I do think, Dan, we're definitely in that era though. That you call it, what you call it, the Neil Olshey, like
the redraft. Yeah.
That's the era.
Oh no! Like when the team resets, they should every year they should take a flyer on one dude.
Yeah.
Like if you were a young team, like okay, like Detroit has done this with like Marvin Bagley. Then they paid him a lot of money. Eesh. And they also did it with James Wiseman. They paid him a lot of money. Yeesh.
Beef Stewart.
Stu got his money. Shouts to him. Look, man, if B Stu was 7 foot tall, that deal would be incredible. He also wouldn't have gotten that deal.
Yeah.
This is a question from John S. McDaniel, too. Why is taking Harrow and then trading him ourselves such a bad idea? Because his value is not any good. Like, everybody keeps saying, well, the Heat fans in particular. Let me go ahead and put my Miami Heat fan hat on. Well, you could get another pick for Harrow. The pick sucks. The pick's not any good. Oh, it's a first-round pick. I beg of Blazers fans. I beg of you. A lottery pick versus an end of the first-round pick are entirely different things. Entirely different things. The Spurs saying, we'll give you a pick in 2027 that's lottery protected is not worth anything.
Yeah.
If the Heat could flip Tyler Herro for something of real value, the talks would be escalating. They're like this whole idea of like, well, there's 5 teams that be yeah, sure, there's 5 teams that are interested in trading a lottery protected first round pick for Tyler Herro. Sure, I believe that. And what does that do for me? Nothing. It does nothing. It does not move me. So why would the Blazers take him and like, well, we'll take the guy who positionally is not versatile for us.
No,
makes
no
things
sense.
Significantly worse in roster construction and is paid a shit ton.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and also doesn't want to be here.
Yeah. I mean, if like there's that line in the article from Ira that came out from the Heat, like, nobody's treated more unfairly in this whole process than Tyler Herro. I'm like, Tyler Herro's making $120 million and married to an IG model. He's fine. He's fine. This is what the money's for. But I would feel bad for him from getting traded from Miami to Oregon. Like, that'd be, ugh.
He grew up in Wisconsin, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you've had a taste of the good life.
Yeah.
This is like me being stationed in Italy, then getting sent to North Dakota. It was like...
Wait till he goes to Pacific City, Oregon, USA, though.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
That's how he gets the leg up on Dame. He actually goes to the Oregon coast.
He actually goes to the Oregon coast, and we're like, all right, let's just take Dame's statue down and put Tyler's up.
Yeah. So, like, look, I think Herro has been unfairly shit on in this whole process.
And by the way, if you have seen the Dame IG video where he basically is in a pool and he's like, it's nothing but love, you know that, Rip City, there's a reason he hasn't been to the Oregon coast. Do you see the beach he's at? He's in a pool on the beach.
In the DR.
The water, even though the ocean, Danny, is like 72 degrees.
Yes. Look, man. Look, he's in the DR living up life. He's got 100 people there with him. Like,
I bet he's living an amazing life.
He is fantastic right now. He's been down there for 2 weeks. This is
I was a little worried when he got on IG. He seemed like they had a couple cocktails.
I mean, just feeling good.
Yeah.
I've had a bunch of people ask me this, so I'll answer this here. Dame is still doing his kids camp in Oregon. I've had a bunch of people ask me that. So if you're watching, if you're listening, he is still doing his camp at the Hoop. It will not be as open as it was, particularly to the media, for obvious reasons.
Right.
But Dame is not going to, take it out on the kids. That's not how Dame operates. But Dame's Formula 100 camp, Formula 0 camp is in Arizona now. So, at Phil Beckner's facility down there, which is incredible. I think it's a good place to end. We have a lot of questions that were all kind of like the same area in here. Is there anything else that you wanted to address?
No, I mean, I think I'd say very quickly, Summer League was kind of meh. I mean, I thought there was some good things. Some
here we go. This speaking of that, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. What were your impressions of the other guys? The Badjis, the Kris Murrays, the Rayan Ruperts? Like, what did you think of those guys?
First of all, I think Jabari is going to be our backup 4.
Might start.
That wouldn't shock me.
At the 3.
3, 4, whatever.
But no, I'm like, might.
Badji was fine. He continues to look like a project to me.
100%.
You can see some things, and then other times you're like, Rupert, super young. He's going to be really, I think, vulnerable when he starts. But I'm interested, man. Like, the amount of length that kid carries. His shoes look too big. So, I'm like, is he still going to get taller? Is he going to Giannis this thing where he gets drafted and grows 3 inches later?
Imagine if he ends up like 6'10". That would be amazing.
Danny, I'm not, dude, that's all I noticed. And maybe it's the color of the shoes, but I'm just like, his feet look like they're too big for him. And usually this is an indicator that they grow a couple inches, and you just hope that it's real and not the internet. Kris Murray, I think he'll be okay as a rookie. I like the prospect of him.
He's smart.
I wouldn't be shocked if he has his, normal rookie ups and downs. But that's, for the most part, my kind of takeaways from most of the Summer League stuff outside of Scoot and Shaden.
Yeah. Badji, I love, like, personally. He's just such a great dude. Yeah,
Can I add? I almost forgot. What's the kid's name? He's number 60. Justin
Manaya?
Manaya.
Justin's
Yes.
a great dude.
Dude, I want that kid on the remixers,
He will
and I
be.
want to see him if they're like 80 games below 500.
He will be.
Okay.
Justin is, so this is going to sound so corny, but the first time back in the building for summer league practices, I'd seen the guys around. Justin was with the team the last couple of weeks. I got to talk to him, build a little relationship with him. He's a great kid. His dad's the former GM of the Mets, right?
Oh, he's that?
That Manaya.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
I know who that is. Yeah,
Yes.
I remember watching that. Yeah.
So
I didn't know that was his kid.
Yes. So Justin's like 6'7", has an engine that pegs at 11 all the time. Crazy athlete, competes really hard, and is just a great kid. So I walk in the gym and he's like doing drills and he's like they're like doing off screen threes, and he gets like, he flies through, takes a shot, sees me, like does a double check, runs over, daps me up, and then gets back into the drill. I hadn't seen him since the end of the season, but it was just like, that's like, you just kind of root for him. I have a very strong suspicion he will be a part of the remix team. I know some other teams
as a prospect.
Oh yeah, no, I know some other teams, particularly New York, had him in for a workout this offseason, I think, and they were really like, we'd like him too. Again, New York Mets, like there's connections there. But him, Rupert, Badji, I think are the three guys you're going to see very much featured in the G League.
What about
DeVoe? Michael DeVoe will. The Blazers have his rights.
Yep.
Wap, I'm not sure, because I think he has the ability to go make more money overseas because he's 27. Okay. Now, I would love to have him, because having like an old head, Pooh Jeter was this. Jarrett Jack has been this. Like, having an old head around the kids is super useful. How to carry yourself, how to be a pro, how to develop, how to work. And the kids, man, they loved Wap. Loved him. Like, they could, the two guys that everybody loved down at Summer League were Wap and Badji. They could not, like, anytime I asked anybody about Badji, everybody lit up. Like, he's that kind of guy, like, you really love. He's just a kind kid who works hard. The second he steps on the floor during the regular season, he will be the first NBA Africa graduate to play in the NBA.
Wow.
So it's a cool story on top of everything else.
Eichen wrote about that, didn't he?
Yeah, he's had a long interview
had a good piece
with Badji. He's written on him twice now.
Yeah.
Badji's great, man. It's a fun story. The Chris Murray is the worst kind of player for Summer League. Because he does like what Jabari Walker did last year, but Jabari was featured, I think, a little bit more in the sense of like just how things ran. I think Scoot getting hurt made Murray's perception worse because they didn't have a table setter after that. Like that, I think that was problematic. But Murray, to me, is like, I worry about him not one bit. Like, he's in the right place, doing the right thing regularly, over and over and over again. Rupert, like, you see flashes of stuff where you're like, "Ooh, I like that," and then you see like the next thing that happens, you're like, "I don't like that."
Yeah.
But there's
raw offensively. He's pretty
100%. But defensively, that dude gets in his stance, and he is a terrorist.
Yeah.
Like, I mean that in the most effusive kind of way. He's got instinctual timing, his ability to take 45-degree angles, cut guys off. That one possession where Scoot was losing his shit on the sideline during the interview, like where Roops was just getting after, like, I can't remember who the guard was, but he was like, "Please God, get me out of this straitjacket." You could just see in that kind of stuff, like, he has real defensive talent and the requisite like give a shit to do it. Right. And I think that was really poignant. And then like the other guys, like DeVoe, could he end up being an NBA player? He could score. Tell you that, like, flat out, he can score. And God, he's got a lefty jumper, so it's super fun to watch him. Trying to think of anybody else as far as G League guys are concerned.
No, they found French Scottie Pippen. That's all I'm happy about.
And Rupert?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's out of this world to think that he's like a Nick Batum clone. He
Oh,
might
I mean, if he became
he might
that
be,
game,
and legitimately he might be smoother than Nick. Like you see him just like what stood out to me was like not necessarily decision making because he's so young. Again, he
yeah,
turned 19 May 31st. He is a kid. He's one of the youngest guys in the draft. But there's a couple drives, like even when he got cut off, he just slithered by guys. It was so slick, so smooth. You're like, ooh, that's not normal to look like
right,
that, where you just kind
right.
of glide by people and you're like, okay, but it's still a long ways off. Defensively, though, he's got real juice, and there's some playmaking talent there. He had a pass where, again, one of those drives where he drove left side from down the slot, kind of euroed, got behind the defense under the basket, and threw a left-handed behind the back pass to.
Was it Butler?
I think it was Butler, and he kind of bobbled it and then like went up and missed it.
Yeah.
But it was like, not only did he see the pass, but he made the pass, and it was pinpoint. And I went, ooh, that's spicy. I like that.
I felt like Rupert had a few possessions in summer league where when he gets close to the basket, he's very aware of like physical presence, like
Spatially aware. Yes.
Yeah, he's very aware. Like the big's here, but he's wrapped around, so I got to go up and get him in the air so I can drop below.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. He had a few plays that I was kind of like, oh, it kind of clicks for him when he gets down there.
You can. That's like the stuff that you're talking about. Like you're like when you're trying to pull those threads of like what is it about him? Like he's super young, and he's got stuff. Now, does it come together? The thing that I've been told, and I heard this from a couple people down there. I'm working to get some folks from the New Zealand Breakers, his pro team in the NBL, either here on the radio. Probably here because Australia time zones kind of a bit difficult to do in on radio.
Yeah.
But the work ethic stuff. Now, guys will gas guys up, but also there's coaches that will crap on kids. That's what I was told would happen with Cam Whitmore. So,
which is too bad.
Why he fell down the. Why he fell down the.
Got to feel good right now about that.
Yeah, he's a guy that's interesting, but the work ethic, I was told, and you'll love this. So you've got baby Kobe. What about how do you like baby Pippen to go with him? Because the work ethic, I was told that Rupert was one of the hardest workers they had down in Australia or down in New Zealand, like from the jump.
Yeah, I would cry if they had baby Pip. Could you imagine baby Pip, baby Kobe? I don't think Scoot's a baby anything. And Scoot is just Scoot.
His coach called him Jason Kidd, so baby Jason Kidd. We had Jason Hart on the show right before I went down to the summer league, the G League Ignite coach, and he's like, he's not Rose, he's not Westbrook, he's more Jason Kidd, and I like strength wise and how he plays, I think that's more apt too.
Danny, if we have Kidd, Kobe, and Pippen, like, just hang the banners now, okay?
I knew you'd love that.
How do we get baby Shaq? Like, how do we go? Is that Cooper Flag? Is that who we're waiting for? Baby KG?
Yeah, that Cooper Flag, my God.
I need him to go an inch and a half, and he's Kevin Garnett, bro.
Yeah,
like,
no,
are you kidding me?
He's going to set a national record for blocks.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be fun. We'll get out of here on that. Little update. This week on Danny and Dusty, we will have Iowa head basketball coach Fran McCaffrey to talk about.
Tomorrow, Tuesday? You know
I believe the 20th, so Thursday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he was booked out. It's practice. The practices are starting in college, so we'll have Fran on to talk about Chris Murray and Coach McCaffrey is a great coach and a great interview. So I'm excited for that one.
That'll be great.
And then I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it anyways because it makes people happy and excited. We should have the kids on the podcast here in the next month or so.
Oh, I'd love to talk to the kids.
Yes. So the tour de force with Scoot, Rupert, and Murray. So
okay,
get everybody introduced to the good folks, and I'm looking forward to those. I think that's it for announcements. Other than you and I have Pac-12 Media Day for
on Friday,
college football on Friday from 6 to 3.
Most of the players and coaches stuff will start at like 8.
Yep.
And then it'll go all the way till 4:30.
But you guys are running longer. We're starting earlier, so we'll be. It's hours and hours and hours of Pac-12 Media Day stuff. So
Yep.
That's the up-to-date stuff. I've got an article on the Patreon dropping around Shaden Sharp. I'm grabbing the last video clips now. I scrapped that entire Shaden Sharp video just because, like I said, it ended up being just like Kyle Mann's video. And I was like, no, this...
Because you don't want to be the guy who's called out and like, you just copied Kyle, man.
It was like a more advanced version of like capitalizing on things that he had talked about, and I was like, I must have just had it like back of mind when I was doing it. And
yeah.
So I took some of the stuff from Summer League, the good, the bad, the otherwise. I'll put that out probably this week. I think that's going to be fun for some folks. And then I finished up the film watch earlier today. We spent so much time. We only got through the first half of game 1, basically watching Scoot. So if you want to, on the Patreon, on the Ball is Life membership tier, the video will live there if you want to rewatch any of those. Other than that, you can catch Brandon and his co-host, Andy Dirk Johnson, 6 to 9 every morning on 1080 The Fan AM. And you can catch me and my co-host, Dusty Hera, from noon to 3. I forgot what time I was on there for a split second. My God. You can email the show, jackframes@gmail.com. Find us on social media, @DannyMaring, @Brandon Sprague. Other than that, you got anything else, buddy?
No.
All
Good
right.
pod. A lot to talk about. And we'll get back to you guys some point this week and try to figure out all through the chaos and what's going on.
Yeah, we'll check back in. August is the slowest month of the year. So unless there's breaking news, we probably won't do too much
Take
beyond
some time
mailbag
off before the
stuff.
season ramps up.
Yeah, like we're just gonna chill. I believe Richmond is doing the same thing. This is what NBA podcasters do. We need a month off. It's if we get some stuff around Dame, I'll keep some stuff going on Patreon. I'll probably even unlock some stuff for folks to go ahead and check out. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night, a great week, and we will catch you soon. Take care.